Good evening, everyone. This is the Town of Auburn, Massachusetts Fire Station Building Committee meeting for July 14th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Calling the meeting to order. First item up is on the agenda is public comment. Seeing none, we move on to the next. Review of the meeting minutes. They're all emailed out to everybody. Any questions, comments, corrections for those minutes? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes and a second on it. So all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? They're approved. Next item is reorganization. Since we were all just re-sworn in, we have to go through reorganizing. I know that Greg, myself, and Heather are willing to stay on, but if anybody else wants to step in, would not be opposed. If somebody wants, no?
Then I will make a motion to nominate Mark Imsey as chair of the committee.
Second.
Okay. Motion to accept me as chair of this committee and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
I'll make a motion to nominate Greg Bowling vice president.
I get a second. Okay. Any discussion? Anything else? Nope. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
I will make a motion to nominate Heather Fortunato as
Can I interrupt for one quick sec? Heather, you recording the actual voting that's happening with them?
I do. I write down the names because
I just want
we don't know all the names.
I heard it, but I'm just trying to type at the same time. All right,
I am.
thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'll make a motion to nominate Heather Fortunato as secretary.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion for Heather as the secretary and a second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? It's a vote. All right. Thank you. Next up is an update from Tecton.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Just a quick update on activities we've gone through the past few weeks, and then a little look ahead of what's to come. So schematic design, that initial design phase is still ongoing. Most of our consultants have been brought in and are working on their drawings and narratives, getting ready for our first estimate that we're going to run here in a couple of weeks. A lot of setup time and coordination goes into developing the initial models that we're going to be using moving forward. So a lot of it has relatively been around that. We're starting to establish the structural grid, and we're doing some coordination with the structural engineer to align some spaces to make sure that they work structurally and that we're designing an efficient superstructure and not having to provide additional pieces of steel where you wouldn't need them just because the space doesn't align floor to floor and things like that. So we're going through that level of development. We anticipate at the next building committee meeting, we don't have updated floor plans tonight, but we will probably have updated floor plans to the next committee meeting to show where any adjustments have been made structurally. And as that coordination continues to go on. We sent out to the fire department, to the OPM, series of design development meetings. We sort of went through a whole list of those with you folks, a couple of committee meetings previously. These are detailed development meetings where we'll go through specific systems within the building or specific groupings of spaces and fully flush out all the details that go into that. So those have been scheduled through December. That takes us to the end of the second phase of design, which is design development. And then we'll have a few more after that as we get ready to bid, but we'll schedule those at a later date. It's kind of a challenge through the holidays and things like that. Site survey is being updated currently by the surveyor, which will be great, so we can get a little bit more detail into the site development. We conducted our first one of these development meetings with the fire department on Monday. So we met and went through the initial selection of the HVAC system, some major mechanical, electrical, and plumbing system components. We'll get into more detail throughout the design on some of those. But it was really critical to go through the HVAC system first, because it allows us to size our electrical system and size the electrical rooms and mechanical rooms and things like that. So we met with the fire department. The OPM was there, and Joe Fahey from the town as well. And we'll recap that on the next couple of slides. The next two meetings we have scheduled with them is later this week on the 17th. We're going to be going through site and landscape design. This is just an initial kickoff meeting with my civil engineer, our landscape architect, and the fire department, and go through some specific site features, where certain utilities might go, what kind of landscaping might we want to see, memorial gardens, things like that. And then we'll have another one in the following week on the 24th, going in a little bit more detail on the building exterior and exterior finishes. We'll be looking at some samples of brick and stone and metal and glass and things like that. And then again, we'll recap the committee with the results of those meetings, bring those materials with us so you can see them. Just a side note on that, the next building committee meeting, if we hold it within 2 weeks, I won't be here, but Tyler will be able to attend in my absence for that. So with the HVAC system selection meeting, so we went through an entire presentation on educating the fire department on different types of HVAC systems, the pros and the cons. And ultimately, we landed on one that would be fairly efficient, can be fully electric, and is the most user-friendly, so to speak, in terms of usability by the end user and maintenance by the town. We went through this with an understanding that the town is going through a mechanical system master plan project right now to sort of come up with a similar system throughout a lot of the buildings and things like that. So we wanted to make sure there was continuity. And so what we ended up going with is VAV type system. It's sort of a tried and true system. Basically, it's a variable air volume is what the VAV system means. So this will consist of rooftop units on the roof that will provide central plant cooling for the building and fresh air. The VAV, or variable air volume boxes, are essentially dampers within the duct system themselves. When a thermostat is calling for more cooling or more heating, those dampers will open up and allow the air to flow. We will provide heating through electric heat pumps. Those heat pumps are super efficient. That's kind of the way that HVAC systems are starting to move, instead of centralized boiler plants and things like that. The one drawback for them being super efficient is they don't work great when it's below freezing out. They sort of lose efficiency as the temperature drops below zero. So in order to supplement that, we will provide backup boilers that'll just supplement heating when it's needed on those really, really cold days. Those could be either gas-fired or electric. We haven't fully flushed out which the backup system is going to be, whether gas or electric. We know there's no natural gas at the street, so it would have to be propane. So one of the things we're doing right now is we started working with National Grid now that we're sizing our electrical system, and we're working with them to determine what's the most cost-effective solution that's going to maximize rebates to the town while also limiting your life cycle cost for it as well. So we're making sure we're providing the most cost-effective, maintainable solution for the project. One other thing we did talk about as well is the apparatus bays will target radiant heat in the slab. So that means that there will actually be radiant piping within the floor slab itself that'll warm that slab up, and that'll be providing a majority of the heat within the bays. We'll also have ceiling fans that'll keep that air down towards the ground. So the idea there is you're not heating the entire volume of space. The apparatus bays are huge. But the biggest advantage of radiant flooring in the slab in the bays is those trucks are coming in and out throughout the day. Rain, snow, sleet. They bring all that liquid back. It drops down off of the trucks onto the bay floors, and the radiant slab actually helps dry that out a lot faster. So it creates a safer situation for the firefighters when they're responding and working around in the apparatus bays. The HVAC system controls. Want to talk a couple of potential proprietary items that we want to discuss with the committee. This will be something that we'll discuss, further along as we start developing the project specifications. But right now, the town utilizes automated logic for your building management systems in a majority of your municipal buildings. So in order to keep continuity with that and familiarity with the system, we would suggest possibly using automated logic as a proprietary building management system for this project. Certainly when you bid something proprietary, what that means is every contractor needs to provide that exact manufacturer, make, model system, right? It limits competition. When you limit competition, you could inadvertently increase cost, right? You can bring prices up a little bit more because you're not bidding against other manufacturers. So in this instance, we might suggest we bid it as a base bid as the proprietary system and then open up an alternate where we would open spec it so that any building management system manufacturer would be able to then submit a price as an alternate price. And we can see if it makes sense to stay with the proprietary spec or go with something else.
So the biggest reason for that is twofold. One, you're going to get the system that you actually want for the department as we move forward. However, if we find the bids are astronomically high over that, we have an alternative to look at as we move forward.
Yep.
Sorry, I just want to make sure that it's,
No, it's a complicated thing
and
to
it's going to
unpack.
it's going to need a vote. So we're going to end up going through a process with the committee to solidify that, so that as we move into the proprietary spec, we have a solidified vote saying that that's exactly the direction we're going.
You have to vote on that?
But
You have to vote on that? Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, and it'll need to be accompanied by a letter
by the-
justifying why it makes sense for it to be proprietary.
and you'll prepare that for
Yep.
them ahead of time. So
We also discussed just to limit maintenance that plumbing fixtures throughout the building will be manually operated, so we won't have censored faucets in toilet fixtures. One other item that we should make proprietary is the vehicle exhaust extraction system for the fire department throughout town uses Plymavent, which is a manufacturer with a magnetic connection. So that's the actual connection that hooks up to the exhaust. There are other manufacturers, but if you went with another manufacturer, they wouldn't be able to change the positioning of their apparatus between stations, right? So they wouldn't be able to take something out of what's currently HQ, bring it down to West Street or vice versa. So
Just a question, Matt. So you've mentioned two on this that could potentially impact bidding costs, right? Because you're limiting, staying with the proprietary that we're already using, but there's potential savings on the other end, right? When you talk about service contracts, you may only have one vendor who can service
yeah, it offsets
multiple
it.
facilities or multiple facilities as opposed to one that may have to.
One of the things that it's going to be in the specifications as a proprietary. HVAC company is actually going to do a majority of the ductwork associated with that. I just want to make sure that we're crystal clear that it's going under the right trade, so that we're not going to get protest.
yeah. But yeah, certainly like with the control system, if you have a maintenance contract for that, it would certainly be advantageous cost wise for it to stay with the same system throughout town, because then you could just add on to that contract rather than create a whole new one, a whole nother set of vendors you have to coordinate with. One thing that was raised to us is there's certainly some quality issues with the drinking water. So we're going to do a water quality test on site for the domestic, and then we're probably going to add some water softeners and a filter plant within the facility. So we'll do a centralized water filtration system there. We talked about the apparatus bays having a wash bay, and what that means is there'll be some hoses on the walls and things like that they can spray the trucks down, but in the trench drain system, so each truck bay is going to have a trench drain. And so that's not like a little floor drain that you would have in a bathroom. It'll be a 60-foot long metal grate that'll be connected to one big drain trough. And they make it now where one end of that can sort of be a T cross section, and there's nozzles built within that so they can actually spray water up and wash the underside of the trucks. It's a small upcharge. We're talking like $5,000-$10,000 to increase the cost of that trench drain system. It pays for itself in like 3 months because of the longevity that you'll be able to increase the trucks with, because of the frames rotting out from salt and things like that, especially in the wintertime. So gas, if we do provide gas within the building, it'll be standalone propane. So that'll be a standalone tank on site. We talked about the generator being a diesel generator and having a separate tank that'll allow the building to be fully functional for 72 hours. That's kind of the standard for a public safety building. It's actually an NFPA requirement if you're dispatching. We don't have dispatch here, so it's not tied to NFPA, but it's really best practice for a public safety building.
You have EOC there too.
Huh?
You have Emergency Operations Center there.
That's true. We do have the EOC, so that would sort of fall into that category. One thing we also talked about too is potentially, rather than this being a belly tank which lives underneath the generator, is having it as a surface mounted tank that the fire department would be able to draw from to fuel their trucks, so that they're turning over that diesel fuel more often. It's not sitting in the tank for years at a time, and it'll allow them to sort of bulk purchase their diesel fuel for their vehicles, and also reduce costs that way.
And most of those tanks, I mean, we've done it on a number of different stations. Most of those tanks are double walled, so they can be above ground, set up underneath. They're basically a bladder tank underneath the generator, and we just have the capability. The only aspect that you're going to end up having to include is a fueling pad. So basically, it's a concrete pad that the truck would pull on, and they would have ribs in it so that any discharge or overspill hits that pad and is retained. That's all.
Let's ask a question on that one. So our DPW, we've gone to a private fueling largely because I think, and the chief can correct me, the DPW at one time had tanks that at one point leaked, and I think we spent 20 years of well monitoring, and I think we've just come out of that 20 years. So I think that's the only concern I see when I see us putting a large tank back on property.
The good news is that there's so many safeguards related to most of these tanks, even for the diesel generators. They're double lined, double walled, so it's a whole different animal altogether.
Through the chair, just to follow up on that, I think the main difference is the old DPW highway tanks were underground tanks. So underground tanks, when they leak, they can leak for years and years before it's actually discovered. Because you realize, geez, we're not putting as much fuel as we thought into the vehicles, and then that's when it's explored. When you have an above ground system, the leak is detection. Not only is there built-in leak detection, but you can see the leak. It's above ground. So that's the major difference.
And then one last item, we talked about not just providing a warranty with the HVAC system, but also including a 12-month service plan in the contract as well, so that you guys are covered while you're sort of setting up the building and getting used to it. That was it. So any questions on any of that? Yes, Heather.
When you guys are doing your landscape plan next week, I don't know if it's something to consider, but the way the oil gas separator, you know you need that. So just keep that in mind.
Yep.
And then you said there's not to be any heat in the bays other than the radiant floor.
That's correct.
Will there be no water in there?
There will be water, yeah. Yep.
The radiant keeps it warm enough? Really?
Yeah, it'll keep the bays around 65 or so degrees. The system, the glycol mixed system that runs through the slab runs at like 140 degrees or something like that, and the slab surface temp reaches around 90, and it keeps that volume pretty nice and toasty. And actually, because the whole slab ends up getting heated, it's a pretty large mass. So it takes a while for that heat to dissipate. So when in the middle of winter, when the bay doors are opening and closing and things like that, it doesn't blast the heat out as much as it would if you had like gas fired heating or something like that. So it actually
Recovery time is so much more.
exactly,
Based
yeah.
on that system that he's describing, it's more of a steady heat through that. You're going to lose heat no matter what when the doors open up, especially on the colder days. But with Matt's design, he's actually going to have a recovery system for it. So we keep the ambulances and all of their medical supplies at a 65-degree ambient temperature when they return.
Thank you.
I do have a question on the radiant as well. So are they zoned so that if you had a failure in one, that you don't have to dig up the entire
Well,
bay?
this building is not going to have any failures, but in the event there is, they have system breakdowns based on zones.
So they would you would know that the potential leak was in one.
You would know a zone would go down. Correcting it is like if there was ever a leak, it's obviously in a removal of concrete to try to expose it. But we air test it prior to the system being energized, and then we also water test it to make sure it holds a certain pressure prior to.
Stay under pressure while the concrete's being poured and stuff too, right?
Right.
Yep.
The problem that you have when you run into is 10 years down the road when the department's needs change a little bit. If they're not looking at the drawings closely as to where the tubing might be, they put an anchor into the cement and they sometimes can penetrate it. But we're going to do our best to make sure that they follow the guidelines associated with the as-bills.
Yeah, it ends up being a really thick concrete section
Hard
because
slab.
one of the biggest challenges that you run into, the first point of failure for the radiant slab system is when they do their saw cut joints in the slab for their control joints, and so you want to make sure that we keep the radiant piping like at least 2 inches below the top of the topping slab, including all the pitches down to the drains. It's a challenge. I've had one break while they were doing the saw cuts, and they were able to open that part of the slab up, repair it, and then re-pour it. But I haven't seen one really fail down the road. Once it's in the slab, it's pretty good. They tie into these wall-mounted manifolds, and that's where all the valve controls are for the heating system itself. And those are typically serviceable once you do have some sort of
One
failure.
thing, Matt, on the valve control where it comes up to the wall, some type of bumper, they usually use like a metal cover around them. We got to look at like just protecting that a little
We try to recess them into the wall. So
Yeah,
they don't
ideal,
get that.
but-
Yeah.
You need to also service them, so I want to make sure we look at that detail close.
Yep. Absolutely.
Question, Matt? What were you thinking for a finish in the apparatus bay floor?
It's epoxy.
Epoxy?
Yeah. So it'll be a multi-part epoxy, like a Duraflex that's rated for any of the chemicals that may be on or off the trucks or spilling on them, as well as the weight of the vehicles.
You could do a nice design too.
Yeah, that way we can build in striping, stuff like that. So we'll put in safety striping, backup striping. So there'll be some weird things that you won't expect in a fire station that actually help make it safer. So there'll actually be a stripe that's sort of a couple of feet off of the edge of the apparatus bay doors, and that's for them to line their wheels up when they're backing it in. That actually gets illuminated by theater lighting that we run in the ceiling, so that you get this tight beam from 20 feet up. So it's the same thing you would use in like a black box theater or something like that. So there's a lot of little things like that we'll build into the actual design.
Are you planning on your epoxy curbing it, going up the wall a little bit as well?
Yep. Yeah, so it'll have the integral curb, and then we'll go to transition to just epoxy paint on the walls.
The reason why they do that is so when you're washing, you're not going to have the breakdown of where the epoxy meets the wall.
The wash bay location, one of the bays or the mechanical bay?
We haven't determined that yet.
Haven't
One
thought
of
about
the-
it yet.
One
One of the bays. It won't
Yeah.
be the mechanic. It won't be the mechanic.
It'll be a
Okay.
regular bay, more than likely.
Just because of
Probably the one on that
the
side.
vehicle that's apart for a
Yeah.
little while. I want to be able
Yeah.
to use it.
Good question. What was the intent for the generator fuel pump? Was that driven by the department request?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and so, in the past, what we've had complaints on after a number of years is the recirculation of the fuel doesn't happen adequately enough, so it comes up. So they're constantly servicing the generator by putting a recirc pump on there. They're able to service it into the trucks and have new fuel brought into the generator more regularly.
Why did we choose diesel over propane for the generator?
Size and they generate a lot more energy with diesel. That typically you need to have a different fuel source for your emergency generator versus the building itself. And you'd need a hell of a propane tank to.
Yeah, the diesel also operates better at a lower temperature than the propane does. You start to lose a lot of efficacy in the propane when it gets really cold out, especially if it's in a above ground tank.
We'll look at both options as we move forward.
Will the tank be sized so that, because it would essentially never be full?
They oversize
Right.
of a 72-hour runtime. So, typically most departments set up an automatic fueling once they know their consumption.
Okay.
That was my question. How do you never really stay at a 72-hour runtime if your trucks have
Yeah.
fueled up on it all week.
So it's a little bit of a formula that they're going to get into. And I'm not to say that, if they draw it, they're gonna know they're drawing from it and how much fuel it's based just on the metering portion of it. And there's an internal, I've seen it where they've done gauges inside and brought it into their watch room, and it'll actually tell you the levels of where the tank is at that time.
I guess I never thought. Where do you guys fuel up right now?
20 in Millbury Street. It's a little on the tight side with some of the larger trucks.
Any other questions? No? Excellent.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. Next item up, left field.
All right, I got
I know
two
it's-
items.
oh.
One is going to be we're going to get into the pre-qualification subcommittee. But second is that we had, as Matt alluded to, we had a meeting with the surveyor. There was a preliminary survey done when the purchase of the property occurred, and there was a limitation of what was required to actually have on that survey. So we ended up having basically a Zoom meeting with the surveyor, the chief, the department, and Tecton, and there's a civil engineer, just to go over what requirements they're looking for, just to expedite the drawing. So as of last week, they were providing a proposal to provide, there wasn't a lot of information, there was some extra items that we were looking for, proposal to provide those services. The chief was going to expedite that with the town and get them out there as early as this week. So I just wanted to bring you up to speed on that. And then the pre-qualification subcommittee, obviously we had a lot of discussion about that. They discussed it last meeting as well. It's just a matter of formatting a group that would be involved as part of that process.
Well, I did send out the left field put together a very nice description and everything of what they were anticipating would be the involvement and stuff, and it was all sent out with the that open meeting book, the revised one. So I don't know. Hopefully everybody had a chance to look at it and feel comfortable if they're volunteering for it to be on this. So at this point, I would take if there's volunteers or whatever, and then we'll worry about nominating people for it.
Volunteer.
Alex is one. Any others? What do we want? 3?
It's one person. I'll go.
3 would be great.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I'll do it.
Okay. Matt? Any others?
Did we want?
I mean,
I was gonna say, did we want somebody from the town or department to?
we're already going to be involved.
So it's going to be,
So I was trying to stay out of it.
I know, actually.
Yeah.
So the 3 names,
Alex Rozak,
yeah.
Matt, how do you pronounce?
Roughly.
Roughly.
RUFLI.
I wrote it all that way. And Glenn Johnson.
Yeah, if you could just email it. I just want to form. Oh, perfect. Perfect.
Yeah. So I guess I can make a motion to appoint the 3 names just named to the subcommittee for pre-qualification subcommittee.
Okay. So we have a motion for Alex, Matt, and Glenn to be on the pre-qualification subcommittee. Do we have a second? We got a couple of them. Okay. Any other discussions, questions? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
You didn't tell them how
Approved.
much money they were getting either. I mean, that was amazing.
All right. Next item on the agenda. Oh, thank you for volunteering, I should say. Next item up on the agenda is just open discussion or topic discussions for the committee. If there's anything else that they want to bring up right now.
I guess mine is probably the next, but just schedule.
Yeah, well,
Just
that's,
get a sense of the schedule over the next couple months.
that's what I was going to look at. I know you're 2 weeks. You're not here.
I do have updated elevations.
Oh,
I didn't.
I was wondering if you had that.
I'll after you guys.
So there's a lot of activities going to happen outside of the meetings that'll be happening with the building committee. Matt and his team are like literally put a a week-to-week schedule all the way through to December with the department, just to kind of go over the dynamics of all of the nuances that are going to be necessary for the specifications and drawings. We'll be attending most of that as we run through. I think there'll be some follow-up, like based on some of the meetings that we'll have, based on systems and components. There may be follow-up meetings that may need a little bit more integral, discussions as we move forward with it. But I think over the next 3 months, anyway, Matt's team needs time to correlate all of that. Really get, the meat and I always say that the meat and potatoes of the next phase is design development as he moves into that direction, and he really needs to format that. Then a whole set of coordination is going to start to occur. All of the overlay, the CAD drawings you're going to do. Are you doing what other matrices that you plan on doing your overlays with? It would be CAD and
BIM 360.
BIMs. That's what I was. So all of that will happen just to make sure that there's no beams where there should be pipes and pipes where there should be beams. So and electrical lines are easy to move compared to sprinkler and plumbing. So they'll be going through a lot of those aspects of it as he progresses. I'm sure there'll be I want to say there's over 170 drawings typically on a set of plans.
Yeah, we're close to 225.
Yeah. So anyway, there'll be quite a few drawings as he progresses them. He's probably we're going to want to do a page turn just to verify that what he's presenting is what the department needs for the program, and the committee has a full understanding of what they're proposing. In that process, we're also going to be doing some cost estimating to make sure that our numbers are all staying in line where we're at. Each step of the way, we'll provide the committee and both Matt and I will speak to the estimators and the consultant teams to make sure that we're designing to budget. That's pretty much rough schedule.
Does that mean we don't need to meet every 2 weeks?
What was that?
Does that mean we don't need to meet every 2 weeks? Right now?
I don't think next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary. I need to be honest with you. I need time for Matt's team to really dig in and start making some sketches.
So
You're getting a vacation.
4th or the 11th, I think, would be the.
yeah,
1, 2.
I'm not around on the 4th, but
The 11th would be 4 weeks.
yeah,
What was the date?
the 11th.
August 11th would be 4 weeks from tonight.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I will not be here.
So we're meeting, just so you know, outside of the building committee, Matt's team, us, Matt's team, us, and the fire department, and then Matt's team,
Before,
the
yeah.
consultants, and us meet, pretty regularly as we're moving forward. So
We just meet, we don't work.
yeah, we work to meet.
Okay. We can pencil that in. I'm sure everybody will be happy to one less meeting this summer.
What's the anticipated timeline for the estimate, the schematic set?
We had a date on that, so
Rough date.
Trying to remember off the top of my head, but I do know it's
save it late.
end of August.
The reason I asked that is, do we want to meet on the 11th, or do we want to get confirmation of that before we meet again?
August 11th?
So we're going to need time to do the estimate. So I think you meet the 11th, and then probably in early September we'll be talking estimate. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. Going to go over your elevations.
Sure. Yeah, just one real quick question before I jump into this. Just as we were working through HVAC logistics, the area we're reserving for future vertical expansion, does anybody take objection to us putting an air handler on that roof?
Say that one more time.
The single story roof
Yeah.
that we're using for future vertical expansion, it would benefit the project a lot cost wise to put an air handler on there for now.
Yeah, it can be relocated.
Because we've got the gym and the training room under there, and there's not a lot with the lobby and everything. There's not a lot of space to get a lot of large duct work through there.
So if you put that there, is that just one unit? Is there another unit somewhere else?
There'll
Is
be
that
other units.
just
It'll be
for
just
that
serving
area?
that area.
Okay,
yeah.
so then it would just be brought up to the next roof. As,
Yeah.
okay.
So at the like my assumption is if you do the addition in 20, 25 years, it's going to be at the end of its useful life anyway, that air handler. If you do it sooner than that, then you would just pick it and place it on the
Extend it,
roof.
basically.
So I just wanted to, before we stuck one up there, I wanted to,
Can we place it in a logical way that gives us a vertical corridor so that we're not
And I don't, and
Yeah.
the other thing is aesthetically, I just don't want a unit being up there, so we'll have to do some type.
yeah. I'm thinking like
that will be a lower roof.
in the back, sort of
Yeah.
over the fitness area is probably the
Architecturally,
best
he's
spot.
gonna be very creative.
yeah.
That's what he does.
But I'm just thinking, like, we don't know what, if anything, would be
Right.
built above
Yeah.
there, but we don't want to put a unit somewhere where, in order to connect to the ductwork on the first floor, you got to do all kinds of crazy.
Yeah, no,
The
it makes
issue-
sense.
Yeah, the issue that you have, no matter where you put it, you don't know what you're going to be building in the future and what type of layout you're going to have for space. So no matter, we could put it in the best spot, it's still going to be in the way one way or the
Yeah.
other. So we'll I'm sure he's going to create chases and ducts that make the most sense.
And not in the way of the generative exhaust either.
No.
Oh, the generator's going to sit out.
So
Remote
two
from
things
the
with the
building, right?
generator, it's got to be,
Rooftop unit, okay, the makeup air, okay,
Yeah.
gotta be cautious of that.
But it's not going to be anywhere near it.
yeah, it's got to be, I think it's like 25 feet away from the building before we have to provide blast protection. And we typically do 50 feet away. And then if you ever see a generator in Massachusetts that's just on the ground with no chimney stack, it wasn't built to code. So it needs to have a stack over the roof line. So it'll have like a 20-foot tall chimney stack on top of that.
The
So
exhaust pipe. There you go.
So this is the original rendering that we had presented at town meeting, and if you recall, we reduced this elevation by about 5 feet, pushed it this way. And we've got sort of this rhythm of windows here in that gable end, and we sort of had to redo this a little bit because when we squish that elevation over, the windows don't quite align with interior spaces, and the proportions of that mass with the open gable end and dying into that cross gable, just it didn't work anymore. So there was also a little bit of discussion around the prominence of the entry piece and how there was sort of some competing front entries to the building a little bit. It was more so on the earlier design than this one, but so we wanted to address those two concerns with this sort of compressing of the building footprint, so to speak. And I'll be honest, we were racing to pull this together just this afternoon, so there's still room to massage, and you can still say, Matt, this is crap. Let's go back to the drawing board and fix it. Always up for that comment, but
What's the material in the white going to be?
metal, insulated metal panel. So keeping the initial design in mind, this is sort of one thought that we had considered potentially, sort of simplifying the lower portion of the elevation, and then instead of having that open gable end at the corner here, just having it return with a hip and come back. And then as we come around the front entry, sort of having a taller gable piece that sort of defines that entry a little bit more. And so this is looking at that front entry piece itself. So sort of a more projected gable end, a little bit more mass to it, and bringing in a little bit more of that metal panel there.
Above that, Matt, what's that space above the lobby?
Above this, in the back, there's one of the bunks, and then we're thinking of bringing the height of the vestibule up a little bit more with this projection so that it flows into the lobby a little bit better rather than going into a really low vestibule
What would
space.
be
and then
that
tall
space
lobby.
on that gable? What would be right above that?
Up above,
Right there. Yeah.
right above here. Part of this would be part of the vestibule, and then behind that would be one of the bunks. The other thing is with this gable end reaching back is you don't see it, but behind this roof into the lobby and then into the day room area, we'd get a row of clear story windows. So you'd have a little bit more natural light deeper into the building with that as well.
like a history. I was talking out loud more than anything. That entranceway, just, I mean, a lot of fire stations put a history wall. It could be a, number of different things, artifacts, or all the way up to memorial photos and stuff. So, or even a piece of equipment, an old hose reel that they put in the air,
Mm-hmm. Any initial thoughts?
You go back to the other.
I don't want
Not a
that.
fan.
I'm not a fan of that
The
either.
original one looks way better. I like the service bay being a little higher than the regular apparatus bays. It has a lot more. Looks like a medical building there,
Where's that? Yeah, so back to more of that than that. Yeah, I don't think we didn't develop this as much on this scheme.
So on the
You had a development back there. I mean, that's fine there and everything.
Yeah.
Over the apparatus and everything. Just the front going to the hip roof.
Can we go back to the new one? That one. So the window layout here is now dictated by the floor plan, right? So this is because there's office, right? Okay. So we have to work within.
Well, but if you go back, I mean, you could.
I know on the revised. I know on the revised floor plan.
You're foreshortened it and stuff, but I mean, you can take out some of the brick and put the metal panel in there for your windows and stuff. If you need to break it up some, right? Going down, or your big. I know it's all bunks coming around there and stuff.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
That just changed the whole style from what everybody was excited about.
Yeah,
For sure.
I do agree that it brings, I think there's a little bit of concern that the public doesn't naturally come around to that entry side, and this does. But I think what you may have to work with is some of the hardscape and landscape and traffic patterns to sort of force people.
But once everything's all done and built, no one's going to be drawn to the other side gable because you can't even drive up to there. So you're going to literally pull in to where the main door is, and everything's going to scream main entrance.
It's true.
People will pull right up to the main apparatus bays at fire stations looking for assistance, and not.
I suppose.
I think for me, I agree with the hip. I think these brick pilasters extending through here are sort of breaking. They're not doing us any favors in the mass, and I think the scale here is a little out of proportion. So that's fine. We can go back.
You did lose something there, yeah.
Yeah, we can certainly go back to getting us back to where we were.
I mean, I think the other comment I would make is you kind of undid a lot of the positive change the public had asked for.
Agreed.
By that roof change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they were all pretty specific about the ones they liked, and the new version looks nothing like any of those.
He's just testing you.
But you also have a long street view on that side,
Right.
Prospect Street. And that's what they're going to see mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when they're stopped at all the traffic, everybody tells me is always there. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Or was there tonight?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you have room maybe to keep this. It's just a matter of
No, it's just massaging it to get it to all work together.
yeah.
Appreciate you working at them.
Yeah.
If you
You gotta throw the good ideas, the bad ideas against the wall to see what's gonna stick. So
if you change the gable end second floor windows and stuff to more of the strip like the front side, I know you need to come up with something for up in the gable, but that could be the headquarters coat of arms or whatever too.
sure,
In a
yeah,
more prominent spot. Yeah, because you're shortening that side up, so I don't know, to help out with your spacing of windows and stuff.
Turn that top pan to the insulated panels, then put it up in the gable part.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's on the next bump out down, but if it's up in that gable above the I don't know.
Guess that's why we approved the new contract.
That's it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll keep working through it then.
I do like the bump out for the entry, right? So I think that's good.
Yeah.
Or I guess you left it where it was and pushed the wall in, I suppose, is technically.
It's both.
Okay.
Push pull. It's
Yeah.
push pull.
Yeah.
Now we're ending on a sour note.
No.
Sorry.
It's okay. No, I appreciate the criticism and not a problem.
You still go home and kick the dog, that's all.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right, then. Thanks for the updates and stuff. So I guess their next meeting right now is set for August 11th, 6 o'clock back here. And I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor? All right. Thank you, everybody.